kind of guide our discussion. Some of it's repetitive. Other things are not. Tomorrow we're going to be doing an activity. I'm making this up on the fly tomorrow. We're going to be looking at biomes. Did you guys study biomes at all in biology?
Yeah.
So you've learned about biomes. You spent way too long. You probably did all big projects on biomes, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you learn about them all. And my goal, you know, some years we've just kind of chosen not to talk about them a whole lot. But really, on the AP College Board outline, it says that we need to review biomes. And so tomorrow, what we're going to do, and I'm still piecing this together. Next hour, I'm going to formalize it. In groups, you're going to get a biome. You're going to use your iPad, and together you're going to collectively just kind of find some of the major parameters with both precipitation and temperature, some defining characteristics, some defining communities of plants or animals that live there. Maybe even take it a step further and find out their adaptations. Okay, if you talk about a desert, cactus have very fleshy tissue where they store what?
Water.
Okay, that's an adaptation. And so tomorrow the goal is going to be to kind of break these biomes down, not to spend a week on biomes where we're all doing poster boards with biomes, but you're going to just take a little bit of time, and then we're going to report out. We'll probably keep it on a collective Google Doc if I can make this work, where each class then will have a Google Doc with all the biomes and everybody's work collaborated and put together so you have something to look at. But we're not going to spend 4 days on biomes. If I were to spend 4 days on biomes, the only reason I'd want to do it is because I want to find cool places that I want to travel. You know, I'd love to do a project where we sit and learn about all the cool national parks. And you know, as time goes on over the year, we will talk about some really cool places to visit. Places that I've been, places that I want to go, and that's one of my favorite parts about learning this stuff. Okay, so let's talk about ecosystems though. You learned, and hopefully you took something away from that IRG. It's how organisms interact with one another and with their non-living and their living environment around them. There are some factors. What are those factors called?
Biotic and abiotic.
Biotic and abiotic. Okay? And I kept those questions in the quiz very straightforward. What is a biotic factor? What does biotic mean?
Biological.
You know what? A simple word. Biotic means
Biological.
living. I think I just heard living. Abiotic is
Non-living.
non-living. And that's a way to remember this. So if you see something like pH, is pH living?
No.
No. So what kind of a factor is that?
Abiotic.
It's an abiotic factor. These are gimme questions on an AP exam. I hope you see something like that. But you've got these biotic pressures, and that's the way that organisms are interacting. That's where you saw terms like competition and diseases. Diseases, you've got these living bacteria and such that are affecting the way that organisms are living and surviving and interacting. All of those biotic pressures, and then you've got these abiotic pressures. Things that are not living, but they completely affect what can live and how they can live and how they can reproduce. What are some abiotic factors?
Temperature.
Rainfall,
Wind speed.
wind speed. I mentioned pH already.
Salinity.
Salinity, particularly in the soil, that makes a huge difference on plant life. You guys see the list is fairly long. And if you listen to that guy, and if you actually paid attention when he talked about even the variation within the rainforest, I tried to think of a way I could write a question for that. And I chose not to, because I didn't want to be too particular. Like I said, I've been listening to the criticisms and taking it in. But I wanted to say, from the top of a canopy in the rainforest to the bottom of the canopy, did you watch to see what happened to the percentage of humidity?
It went up.
At the top, where it's got all this light, it's 100% light, there's no humidity, because it's all evaporated up. But the humidity, by the time you get to the bottom, you're in the ground cover, and you're in that, right along the soil and that organic matter, 100% humidity and no light. Within one cross-section of that rainforest, you have a complete change, complete range in two abiotic factors that completely change the life that lives in those various regions of a single cross-section of a forest. You've got things that live on the top, in the middle, at the bottom, they thrive there. And then you've got a whole set of biotic factors in that localized region. So all I want to get across is this mix of biotic and abiotic factors form. We say we don't want to talk about all the biomes, and I get it, that's kind of dry and boring, especially the way you've had to learn it. But what makes all those regions unique, what makes everything unique, is this blend of these abiotic and biotic factors. Now, classifications. This is the stuff, to be honest with you, I hated in ecology. I had to take a college ecology course to become a teacher here. Or actually to start my grad school stuff with Van Ark. We did this grad school program for environmental policy. I had to do a prerequisite, he didn't, so I had to take a class while I was here teaching called ecology through some college out in like Oregon. I had to take a final and sit there with my boss, and he had to be my proctor for 3 hours while I took a final exam. But you want to talk about college ecology in comparison? I had to know like genus and species and all. A lot of the terms were the same, but man, it even took it further. I didn't like that stuff. I don't like definitions. I'd rather understand concepts. But we're going to try to blend the two of them together. Okay, first of all, we're going to use the term organism a lot in this class. Organism is any form of life. This is my own misconception. I'm going to share with you my misconception. When I think of organism, I think of like a bug. I think of an organism, and that was just my natural thing. I think of like some little living creature. An organism is a plant or an animal. It is any living thing is considered to be an organism. And so we're going to refer all year long, how does this affect organisms? How does pollution affect organisms? Plants or animals, how are they affected? They are the most fundamental form of life, is what we will call an organism. Term species. Unfortunately, like I said, we're not going to get to the same definitive level that you do in a college ecology course. But when you've got organisms that look like each other, if you watched the video yesterday, when they were defining species, the cow,
And the bison, or
It wasn't.
the
The
water
cow,
buffalo.
and the water buffalo.
yes,
Yeah.
and they said they look very similar, but what is the one thing they can't do?
They can't breed.
They cannot breed. They cannot breed. And because they cannot breed, they're not considered to be the same species. Now, we're not even going to talk about the word genus. They've got the same genus, but they're not the same species, because we'll talk about species of organisms. Okay? They resemble each other in appearance, behavior, chemistry, genetic makeup, all of that stuff. When you talk about the organisms that they were displaying in that little video, they look very similar. The key is they have to be able to interbreed, at which point those are considered to be the same species. Okay? If you're playing tap fish too, you're able to take different fish and you're able to get them to breed. Realistically,
You can't do it.
some of the things that are on there you really shouldn't be able to. It's not. Go figure. It's not realistic. Okay, I really learned it was not realistic when suddenly Noah decided to, like, I'm trying to actually win some of the goals now that he's getting in this. We're checking it twice a day. I'm trying to win some of these goals with this fish tank he's creating. He went out and bought like all of these fish that are actually bunny rabbits with baskets strapped to them. The legitimacy of the game just went in the crap.
Wait, like real money?
What? No, not real money. Only once did that happen. I put the code in for him because he wanted to get a free app. And unfortunately, he was not in the filter for free. So I was like, Dad, look at these. And he bought Addie some Princess Bowmaker and this. Some I've got like $7 or $8 in apps. Good for him.
Well, there's a $99 app, so.
Okay, I'm going to be more careful.
What is that?
Yeah, there's a $99.
All right.
There's hundreds of $1,000.
Yeah.
Other terms. So now as we expand this, you've got species. And if you remember from your IRG, both last night and today, then you move on to this term called population. By the way, how did you do on the one that I made, that I put together with the matching? Is it
It's
tough?
pretty easy.
No. No, the definitions were.
Here's one thing that made it tough, I'm not gonna lie, is when you do that, you still get the whole drop-down menu with all of them. So you gotta figure it out, which I kinda like, because I didn't want it to be just a gimme question. But that was my way of going through terms, and instead of making individual questions for each term, which I thought would have been a little tougher, you can see them all at once and
Is it
figure out which
still
is
only
appropriate.
1 point, or is it?
I made it worth 3, so each one was worth a half. This quiz will be out of 12.
Okay.
What was the one about, like, where they can free?
That's species.
It's species.
Interbreeding the species.
Yeah, I know those. That's why my grandma got it for me.
I don't know how you put it on.
The case.
I'm making marks all over you.
Well, actually, these get challenging. I took the definition